Mr. Lopez, you and the defendant have a child together. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your complaint that the defendant had you arrested on false charges of assault, domestic violence, and you want to be compensated for that. And in addition, you want a home entertainment center that you say was yours, that is in the defendant's home. The defendant says that the home entertainment center was a gift. You did, in fact, assault her, and she is counterclaiming for her injuries.
I don't have nothing. He took everything.
The defendant says the home entertainment center was a gift. Do you still have it?
No, he took everything.
She doesn't have it. And that you did, in fact, assault her. And her counterclaim is for the injuries that she suffered during the course of this assault, which occurred around Christmas time. Is that right?
Christmas Day.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lopez. Were you living with the defendant at the time that you were arrested?
I was moving out. I was in the moving out.
He was already a week out.
I'm going to get to you in a minute, but don't interrupt him. What do you mean you were in the process of moving out? What does that mean?
The day after Thanksgiving, we had a really big argument, and we had broken up. So we made an agreement by no later than the first week of January that I had to have everything of mine moved out and be completely moved out. I was staying between there, like a few days if I babysitted my son, or I stood at my best friend's house or my mother's house.
So most of the time you weren't living there?
Yes.
All right. So tell me about Christmas Day. You came over to the house?
What happened was we agreed to meet up at my best friend's house. We picked up my son and her son, her other child, and we agreed to go back to her house, to her apartment, and open up the children's gifts together. And from there, when we arrived at the home, we opened the gifts. She asked me to stay a little bit longer while she took a shower so I could watch the children. I agreed. At that time, I received a phone call from my fiancée on my fiancée's cell phone, just before she went to the bathroom to take a shower. At that time, I was speaking to her. I explained to her what time I was going to be finished. I explained to her that she was going to take a shower and I was going to meet up with her right after. At that time, she began screaming, saying stuff that didn't need to be said over the phone for my fiancé to hear. So at that time, I said, why are you acting up? You know what, I'm not going to stay. I'm leaving. She began an argument. I tried to leave. I had my son in my arms with the cell phone. She wouldn't let me leave. So I said, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm leaving my son. I put my son down in the crib. At that time, I dropped the cell phone in the crib without knowledge when I put my son down. I tried to leave. She blocked the doorway. I kept on explaining to her, move, I want to leave. I'm not staying, I'm out. She didn't want to let me, so then I barged through. She had her arms spread out against the doorway, holding me, not letting me go. So when I barged through so I could leave, she scratched her arm. So I left. When I got outside, I went to go call my fiancé.
That is not even
And when I got downstairs,
Ms. Gonzalez, I don't want to
to
hear it's not true again. Do you understand?
No problem.
No, that's not an answer. The answer is yes, Your Honor, I understand. I will not interrupt again.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand. I will not interrupt again.
That's right. Go ahead.
So outside, I went to make an attempt to call my fiancé, and I noticed I didn't have the phone. So when I went back upstairs,
That was stupid.
because the phone was upstairs,
That was stupid.
I went and I looked for the phone. And
Say yes, that was stupid.
Yes, it was stupid. So I asked her if she had the
you
cell
just
phone.
gotten out of the house, you pushed her, she scratched her arm, according to you. You leave the cell phone and you go. You don't go back into a confrontational area, sir. That's stupid, Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
All right, so you go back upstairs. What happened when you went back upstairs?
When I got upstairs, I asked her, did she have the cell phone? She says, I don't have it. So as I looked through the house, I remembered I had it in my hand when I put my son down. When I looked into the crib, my son wasn't in the crib. I went and I found my cell phone under the sheet. Again, I attempted to leave. Again, she blocked my way. I said, just move, then move. At that time, she told me she had called the cops and I was going to be arrested. I said, well, I'm leaving. And outside the door, a lady, which I had never seen before in this building, for the whole year I was living there, had my son. As I attempted to take my son from the lady, 2 female officers were coming upstairs.
What were you taking your son from the lady for?
I didn't know the lady. If I don't know the person, I don't want nobody I don't know having my son in my hands. I don't know what they'll do. So the 2 officers were downstairs. They came, and they brought us all into the apartment, me, her, and the 2 kids. While we were in the apartment, the officers explained because this domestic problem, they were going to arrest both of us. At that time, they would take both children and put them in child custody. I said, I'm not pressing no charges. I don't want nothing. I just want to go home. My son can stay. I have no problem. At that time, the female officer told me to stand by the door, don't move. So at that time, there was a knock at the door. 2 more officers came, 2 male officers now. We go back inside. She's in there screaming. Next thing you know, all I hear is her mother screaming at me. Jason, I wouldn't do this to you. And she said, why are you doing this? I said, what's going on? The officer said, turn around, and they handcuffed me. Later, when I was taken down to central booking for arrest, I was informed of the charges. It was assault, assault with weapon, child endangerment. They said I put a knife to my son's back. At no time did I ever touch a knife to grab against my son. Because of that, I had charges of an ACS for attempted on my child, and
All right, you were held in jail for 2 days, is that right?
for, yeah, almost 2 days.
2 days.
I called my fiance.
All right, the charges were subsequently dismissed when you decided to drop all charges against each other, is that right?
Yeah.
Do you see your son now so regularly?
No.
Why not?
I still can't because she won't let me see my son.
Uh-huh.
It's a struggle for me to see my son.
All right.
And every time we went to family court for me to get a chance to see my son, she made false charges, knowing I was going to get visitation of my son, to have me arrested.
Okay. I'd like to see first the medical bills that you have as a result of this incident on Christmas Day.
I didn't get to get the medical bills because this happened so quick that I didn't get a chance to get them. So I have my pictures.
Let me see all the papers you have. All the papers.
Your Honor, Judy.
Shh, just a minute.
I have a scar on my left hand.
Just a minute.
And the lady that
Just a
called-
second. These scratches are what you're talking about?
Yeah, I had a scratch.
All right.
I had a hairline fracture in my left hand.
Don't tell me you had a hairline fracture without any medical bills, without reports. Don't tell me about a hairline fracture.
Excuse me, Judge.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Thank you.
I have a few questions for Ms. Gonzalez. The police officer who took this report took your statement, is that right?
Yes, and on the statement,
I'm speaking. The police officer who took the report took your statement, and he read the statement to you, is that right?
yes, he did.
And after he read the statement, he asked you if it was accurate, is that right?
Yes, he did.
And you said it was accurate, is that right?
That's right.
And you signed it.
Yes.
And you wouldn't have left out anything vitally important, is that right?
No.
So I'm going to read what you wrote in the statement.
I didn't write that. The officer.
What the I don't care whether you wrote it or the officer wrote it. I just asked you whether he read it to you and whether you signed it. You said yes.
Jason Lopez says ex-girlfriend Suhey Gonzalez had him falsely arrested for domestic abuse. Suhey claims Jason slammed her hand in a door and held a knife to their son's throat.
All right, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm going to read what you wrote in this police report. It says, at the time and place listed above, the perpetrator, that's him, who was the victim's common-law husband, did grab the victim by her throat, choked her, at which time he forced her left hand between the door and the wall and repeatedly slammed the door on the victim's hand, causing substantial pain and swelling to the victim's left hand. That's what this says, okay? Now I'm going to tell you what you wrote in your answer. When I told him to leave, he grabbed our son and tried to take him. When I tried to stop him, he pulled a knife out and held it to my son's neck. He said, if you don't let me take him, I'll kill both of us.
No, they didn't write it in the police.
They wrote nothing about a knife threatening to kill himself,
Exactly.
threatening to kill this
Yes.
child. You know why they didn't write that down? Because you didn't tell them that.
Is that you?
No. Because you didn't tell them that.
All right,
at the
I
time.
didn't tell them exactly at the time.
Right, at the
Because they had
time-
me in a separate room.
Hey.
They had him outside.
Just a second. At the time, you didn't tell them that he took out a knife, he held it to the baby's throat, he threatened to kill the baby. You told them that he hurt your hand and your hand was in pain, not that he threatened to kill your child. You made that up later.
No, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh, no, I did
Oh,
not.
yes, you
They
did.
knew that he was the one. Can I say something
yeah,
now?
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
In that
you did.
police report, the lady signed, she's the one who signed right next to the statement, not me. Because I didn't call the cops because he broke my phone, and that's why. I didn't call the cops. The lady from my building called the cops. She's the one who had both of my kids because my oldest was crying. She's the one who called the cops.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to call the cops.
Here we go.
Because he wanted to take my son, just like he took my son 3 weeks ago.
Let me explain to you
kidnapped
what
my son.
got you angry, Miss Gonzalez. I've been in this business a long time. He's at your house. According to your answer, he told you a couple of weeks before or a month before, he didn't
December
want to have, I'm
17.
speaking, that he didn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. He had a new girlfriend. Clearly, he has a new girlfriend. All right?
Excuse me.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. He comes over to your house, right? According to your answer, You open up the Christmas presents together. It's all a nice family situation. You ask him to watch the kids while you go take a shower. This is what you write here. When you come out of the shower, you hear him on the phone with his girlfriend. I'm not saying that that's what happened to her. I'm saying that that's what she wrote in her answer. That makes one very angry.
Of course.
Of course. Of course that makes you very angry, because there you're here with him, with a new baby. He's taking care of the baby's presents. He's in your house Christmas time, and he's going to say goodbye to you, and he's going to go to girlfriend number...
And it was just a week that we had broken up.
Fine. So you're really angry. The knife was a nice touch. He wasn't arrested with a knife. He wasn't arrested with a knife.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about.
And
you know what I'm
happened.
talking about.
And I know what happened.
Yeah,
And I know exactly what happened. Because he tried to take my son. He tried to take my son.
Just a second. What do you mean?
That's how... Who
Hey,
called my mother?
Miss
Who called my
Gonzalez.
mother? The lady
Miss Gonzalez.
that called the cops?
Miss Gonzalez. Is he the father?
Yes, he's the father. And I'm not saying that
I'm
he's not.
speaking. Is he the father?
Yes.
Then you have no greater right to this child than he does.
But
Duh.
he kidnapped my son for
Duh.
3 weeks.
You can't kidnap your own child unless there's an order
This
of
is
custody.
recently. We've been going through this. I just want to go on with
What
my life.
I'm
I want
telling
him
you-
to go on with his life. If he wants to
Listen.
see his son, he's more than welcome to
Listen.
see his son.
Miss
I have nothing
Gonzalez,
wrong with that.
these-
But
I'm
he cannot see
speaking.
his son
I'm
because
going
he
to say
had
1,
order
2, 3.
protection.
Then they're going to put you out. When you claim that you were severely assaulted, and the best picture that you can come up with is a picture showing me 2 scratches on your arm. 2 scratches. That's what they are. No hairline fracture, no hospital records, no... Well, all right. This was an argument. And unfortunately, because the police take domestic violence seriously, as they should, they got to arrest somebody.
And I lost my securities license.
Mr. Lopez, you do not get an A+ for smarts. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, you don't get an A+ for going back for a $39.99 cell phone after you have already had an altercation with her, and you were out of the problem. You were outside.
Because he never
You
went
go-
outside.
Excuse me?
Because he never went outside. That's
Because you
why...
wouldn't let him go outside, Miss
No,
Gonzalez,
because he was
you
trying
were
to kidnap
so
my
angry.
son. He was trying to take my son. And he's devious like that, that he would take my son and leave. Just like he did 3 weeks ago. And that's why he was going to get rearrested. I had to get the cops to come get my son from his house.
You keep saying my son.
Because he's my son. Because he don't pay no child support. He doesn't do nothing.
What do you do for a
he
living?
He hasn't done
Shh.
nothing.
What do you do for a living?
I was working.
What do you do for a living now?
Nothing.
Who supports the child?
I do.
No, not if you're not working. You get welfare?
Yes, I do.
If you get welfare, then I support your son. You think I should take him?
Yeah, but I was
Just a
working.
second, just a second. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? He doesn't support his child, and you don't support your child. I support your child. So that mean that I should get custody? Don't be ridiculous. Pardon, Ms. Gonzalez. You keep saying, it's my child. He's taking my child. He's entitled to see his child. It doesn't sound to me like he's too bright.
just stopped working,
Because he went
so-
from this child, you're going to have another child? You keep rubbing your belly, right?
Yes.
You got enough trouble with one. You're going to make another one? How
Yep.
many more do you have?
That's the only one. The only one coming.
In any event, I read the police report. I read the police report that doesn't talk about a knife to the throat, threatened to kill the child, threatened to kill anybody, and I see 2 scratches on your arm. You also, sir, yeah, you want to play that for me?
Yes, I even have an
Go
audio tape
ahead,
of
let
her
me hear it.
saying-
But I still can't get over the fact why you had me arrested.
Because I was just upset. Things were going through my mind. I'm admitting I'm sorry.
Oh, so you're admitting that you did get me arrested?
This is why he was...
Because of this chick? Because I was with another chick?
No, it wasn't only because of that. It was because of a lot of things, Jason.
Oh, okay. But then why did you tell him I punched you in your face? I choked the out of you?
No, I didn't say that.
Gigi, the DA said that in the court.
Mr. Lopez, I didn't even have to listen to that. I mean, I've heard this, I've been around this business now for 27 years, right?
Yes.
And I know, when I read your papers, I see her affect, right?
Yes.
And I know exactly what happened. That doesn't mean that you were smart, A, as I said, to go back to the cell phone, B, to get a telephone call from your girlfriend. Tell your girlfriend, don't call me until I call you. I don't want to create any more problems with her. I'm going to open presents with the children. Don't call me. That creates a problem.
We had already opened the gifts. This was around the time I was getting ready to leave.
She shouldn't have called you, and you shouldn't have spoken to her. Say, this is a tacky problem. I don't want there to be any problem with her. Don't call me. I'll be there. I'll be home when I'm home. And the reason she called is because it's a little territorial. She's not so happy either you're going over to visit mother number 1. She's going to be mother number 2. You know, you got to be
She
smart.
wasn't pregnant at the time.
2 months later. Wow,
Now
big
she
difference.
is. Now she is, right? And on your security job, you can hardly afford to pay for yourself.
I don't have work.
Listen to me, sir. When you had a security job, you could hardly afford to pay for 1 child. Now you're going to have 2. Did you pay for a lawyer? No. They gave you a free lawyer.
Yes.
You spent a couple of days in jail.
Yes.
You shouldn't have.
And so did I, because he falsely arrested me.
For what?
He said that I made phone harassment. On June 30th, he called me. I have the phone records for that. He called me with my own phone card that he rung up. He falsely arrested me on June 31st. I got arrested. I made the report on June 30th. As soon as the time right after he called me and called them and let them know that he was calling me and harassing me. And he called me with my own phone card. And right after that, he calls his girlfriend and his mother.
No. No.
Ms. Gonzalez, your counterclaim is for the assault that you claim he perpetrated on you
And
on
false
Christmas
arrest.
Day.
It says it on the paper.
And according to your complaint, you are filing for injuries and damages due to the alleged assault. Okay? You do say somewhere in your answer that he filed false charges, but the damages you are requesting are for the assault. And I don't find that he assaulted you, so your counterclaim is dismissed. The only thing that I have to consider now is whether there was an argument and whether, as a result of false statements that you made and continue to make and continue to embellish to the police.
Not me,
Betty,
because
I'm
I wanna go on with my
speaking.
life. He's the one
I'm
who brings me
speaking.
here. For what?
He brought you here
For
because
what?
you...
He keeps calling me and harassing me.
Listen to me. He's known you a long time. I've met you now for about 15 minutes, and I don't think he's crazy. And I wouldn't precipitate phone calls and contact with you because I think that you're an angry lady. I think that you feel as if he jilted you, that he left you high and dry with your baby, and now he's got somebody else. All of those things, doesn't pay child support, you're not working, but that doesn't give you the right to have him arrested and make false allegations, which I believe that you did, and I'm awarding him $1,000 on his claim. That's all. By the way, she doesn't have your entertainment center.
Yes, she
That's
does.
all.
Your Honor, when we went there, the officers explained.
Why is our excuse? You may step out.
Assistant Nancy Nelson says former tenant, 31-year-old bodybuilder Keith Middlebrook owes her for rent and loans.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 544 on the calendar in the matter of Nelson versus Middlebrook. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Nelson, according to your complaint, you rented a room to the defendant in your home. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
How did you find him?
I put an ad in a local newspaper and interviewed roommates, and he came across initially as a very kind, friendly person. He told me he was a Christian.
So you rented him a room?
Yes.
How much rent was he supposed to pay?
$450 a month.
And how long was he there before you lent him money?
He was there for a couple of weeks before I lent him money.
And what did he come to you needing money for?
He needed a car. He wanted to buy a Mercedes-Benz, and he agreed to sign a contract for it to make me the lien holder of the vehicle and to train me, to personally train me at the gym that he worked at for 9 months, in addition to paying me back regular payments.
You put something on your credit card?
Yes, I put the amount of $3,000 on my credit card. But I had a promissory note for it, and I've since been awarded a judgment for that.
So you got a judgment for the $3,000?
Yes.
Which has been appealed. She wanted to get in shape first before she loaned me the money. She wanted to get in condition that was important to her.
I'm not interested in it. You borrowed $3,000 from her. Didn't you know anybody else? You knew her 2 weeks before you came to her for money?
Well, my point being is she wanted to get in shape first.
First of all, didn't you know anybody else? How old are you?
31.
If you're 31 years old, you know this lady for 2 weeks. Why would you go and ask her for money?
Well, if I was going to train her, I need to get rewarded some way. I wasn't going to train her for free.
It's a lot of training. Anyway, your lawsuit says that at some point you asked him to leave the house. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Why did you ask him to leave the house?
Over the period of the several months that he had lived there, from January to August of last year of '98, I had witnessed many different episodes of violence on his part.
Against whom?
Against
That's a lie.
Shh. Against who?
Number one, an ex-girlfriend of his. During
But nothing directed towards you so far.
Nothing. He had yelled at me a few times.
You told him to leave in September?
In August.
In August. Why? Because of this violence that you had observed, you didn't want him to be your roommate anymore. Is that what you're telling me?
And also he was not making an effort to, making any effort to pay me back any of the other money that he...
You mean on the car?
Right.
Now, when did he move out?
September 30th.
He moved out on October 15th. That was when it was apparent that he had left.
She says you were gone October 15th.
No, she was gone on vacation, assuming that I was still living there. But she had cut the electricity off, I believe it was on the 27th of September. And so, why she assumes I'm there in October, I wasn't, but she was gone on vacation, and when she got back, I was already gone anyway. And like every other month,
Did you go on
I paid the rent.
vacation?
No, ma'am, I did not. I moved out of my house because I was fearful for my safety.
Why?
I served him with an official 3-day eviction notice on September 22nd.
You
And-
received that, sir. Is that correct?
Sure, I was moving out anyway.
Just a second.
He called me to speak to him in our living room that evening, and he wanted to stay for 90 more days.
Wrong.
He
That's a lie.
offered me to up the rent to $500 and to train me during those 3 months that he was going to be living there. And I thought about it overnight, and it was just so nice to have him be nice to me for a change that I just went to bed. And
I was always nice to her.
Please,
next
Mr.
morning-
Middlebrook, don't interrupt her.
Okay.
Okay?
the next morning he asked what my decision was on the 90 days, and he was waving $300 cash in front of me like this. And I just said, I don't think it's a good idea. And he put the money away and he said, well, I guess you don't need this then. That night, I reminded him that he had to be out in 3 days. And he responded with, not if you care about your cat. And that was very upsetting to me, of course. And I called a couple of my friends. I was crying. I was just a wreck. I was very fearful.
So you left the house?
This
Yes,
is all
I
a lie.
did. I moved out, and my friend Annette here came and helped me move out.
Step up. What is your last name?
Hanson.
Miss Hanson, did you have a conversation with Miss Nelson on or about September 22nd?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Tell me what that conversation was.
The phone rang, I picked up, and it was Nancy. She was crying on the phone, and immediately I knew because she's been having so many problems with Mr. Middlebrook.
She cries all the time, for anything.
Is there something wrong with him?
I'm not sure.
I think that's all the muscles, they went to his head. Go ahead.
Okay, and she told me what had happened, that Mr. Middlebrook was going to do something about her cat, and she told me if I could come over and get her things to stay at my place, and I said, sure.
How long did she stay with you?
3 weeks, if I remember right, ma'am. Also, I've seen Mr. Middlebrook yell at Nancy Nelson in the past. I can remember one occasion clearly that we were having, I can't tell you exactly what was the conversation. I'm sure it was about him owing her money. And all three of us were in her living room. He was very aggressive. He was shaking, he was turning red, and he was speaking very loud at Nancy. And Nancy's very soft. So I just asked Mr. Middlebrook, Keith, could you please not yell at Nancy? I mean, she's not yelling at you. We're three adults here. We're just talking. And he responded to me, I yell at her anytime I feel like it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real people, Judge Judy. Nancy Nelson claims former tenant, bodybuilder Keith Middlebrook, didn't pay his rent. Keith says she sexually harassed him.
Now let me ask you a couple of questions, Miss Nelson. You sued him for the $3,000. Had he made any payments at all towards this Mercedes that he bought or that he leased?
Yes, he was making the minimum credit card payment for the first 7 months.
But he wasn't paying off any of the principal.
Correct.
Is that right, sir?
At the time, yes, but I didn't make the payment, and that was okay with her. She didn't have a problem with that.
You were making the minimum credit card payment.
And she said that was okay.
Well, then if she said that was okay, why would you have had this discussion about the payments when the three of you were together?
Well, she's leaving out the fact that she tried to separate and break up me and my girlfriend. When the Mercedes broke down, I turned into the garage to have it fixed. The next day, she had her and 4 of her friends call down and saying I was a thief, a con man, and a lowlife, and I would not pay the guy for fixing my car. And he was freaked out, and for over a month, he didn't touch the car. I finally get a hold of Kirk, the owner, and he said, well, Keith, on the day after you dropped the car off, this lady, well, I received about 4 or 5 phone calls saying, what a con man, what a thief you are, and you're never going to pay me.
Now, when was this, sir, that you brought your car in to be repaired?
I believe it was in July.
So you were still living in the house?
Yeah.
Well, you see, Mr. Middlebrook, if I believed you that she was perfectly satisfied with these minimal payments that you were making on her credit card, then there would have been no reason for her to call your mechanic. She wouldn't have been angry. So she wasn't happy with the minimal payments that you were making on the credit card that didn't cover any of the principal. That's why she was angry. And if she did, in fact, call these Mercedes people and say, don't fix the car because you're not going to get paid, it was because you hadn't been paying as you promised to pay off your credit card, the credit card bill, which was her credit card bill. Did you, in fact, pay to have your car repaired?
No, I took it to another garage.
So you took it, did you pay the other garage?
I couldn't because I didn't have a car for 5 weeks. It really cost me a lot.
Just a second, so you don't have your Mercedes?
No.
What happened to it?
The car was kept at the other garage for so many days, and the guy charged me an impound fee, I believe at $15 per day, which added up, and he had the car sold.
Oh, so let me understand this.
But
no, let me understand this, sir. You drove a Mercedes for 6 months, and you paid maybe 25 or 30 bucks a month to drive it because all you were paying her on her credit card was the interest on the $3,000. So you are one of those very fortunate people that can drive around in a Mercedes-Benz for 30 bucks a month.
Well, don't forget I put $2,000.
Just a minute. Oh, what? Have you paid her $3,000 that you got a judgment on?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Why haven't you paid her the $3,000, sir?
Because of the financial stress that she caused me by telling from my clients that called in at the house. She was not giving my messages. She was erasing my messages. She cost me a lot of money. In fact, to the fact of $8,000, which does not qualify.
I want to tell you something. You haven't seen $8,000 from a client in 6 months, and you're never going to be able to prove that to any court, sir. That's a lot of baloney.
She received over $2,500 of interest from me for during the time the car was not working. I paid her rent to use her car. Gave her $150 cash because she was on unemployment. She wasn't using her car. She made a lot of money off of me.
Just a second. She let you use her car while your car, just a minute, while your car was in the repair shop, and you gave her $150 a month to use her car.
A week.
A week.
Sometimes $40 a day, depending on whatever it was.
Just a second. Do you live in America?
Yeah.
If you didn't like the terms, then you go to rent a car, rent a wreck.
At the time, she was on unemployment. She needed the money.
Just a second. You're not following me, sir. You want me to say you are a victim. You are not a victim.
Most definitely I am.
Do you hear the shh?
I went through it all. There's no question I was a victim.
Listen, let me tell you why you're not a victim. Because if you don't like the heat you get out of the kitchen, if you don't like where you're living, you move. If you don't like the term, no, you stayed there for a long time. You stayed there after you alleged that she called the garage.
Well, all that happened in August.
No. You just told me it happened in July. You got to remember what you say to me because I got a mind like a steel trap.
The car was turned
My
in
first
July.
husband says I remember every single bad thing he ever said to me 35 years ago. He's right. He's right. So you told me that she called the garage in July. That's what you told me 5 minutes ago.
I turned the car in July. It could have been done in 3 days, but it took 5 weeks.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. You told me she called the garage in July, and then, just a minute, then you also said to me you stayed in the house in August, you stayed in the house in September. That's another 2 months. So what I'm telling you is you're an American and you look very healthy. If you don't like the terms, you move.
And I agreed to in September.
No, you move right away if you don't like the conditions. And if you don't like the terms of taking her car, then you don't take her car. What else does he owe you? Miss Nelson?
Telephone bills from
How much?
June 27th to September 26th, $320.52.
Now, Mr. Middlebrook says that he does, in fact, owe you for the telephone, but he's not going to pay you because of all the aggravation. Is that what you told me in here in your answer?
Absolutely.
Okay. How much was the phone bill?
$320.52.
Go ahead.
I had to evict him, so he trashed my house. I have pictures here to show you about the way he left it.
Just as I can't look.
Mm-hmm.
Was this his room?
Yes, ma'am.
He decided not to take his clothes? What is all this stuff here that he left?
Just junk, trash.
She had turned the lights off, so at the time when I was doing everything, when I was working,
Show this to him.
so obviously during the day, I would have to wait till she gets back so she'd turn the lights on to get the rest of the stuff. But she thinks I was living there when I was not.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Nelson, sometimes you don't get...
Nancy Nelson wants bodybuilder Keith Middlebrook to pay her for loans and rent. Keith says he doesn't owe her. She wants him.
How much did it cost you to clean up that mess that he left?
I hired a friend of mine that I had that does house cleaning, and the total came to $242.04.
Judge Judy, I got the bulk of the big stuff while I could when the lights were out. Of course, the room's not cleaned up because it was very difficult to see to begin with. That's why you see what you see there on the floor. I got the valuable stuff first.
You mean you came back for all this junk?
Well, I would have to wait till she...
Shh. You came back for all this junk, or you left it this way?
September 30th, I left. When I came back...
Did you leave it this way, is my question. Is this the way you left the house? That requires a yes,
yes
or a no. Good. Next, what else?
I purchased a car stereo for him.
Which didn't work after 3 weeks.
Just a minute. What do you mean you purchased a car stereo for him?
I purchased it for him, and again, he promised to not only pay me back for it, but to paint my kitchen.
Why did you ask her for a car stereo?
She needed her kitchen painted. I need to be repaid, and so that's why I came with the car stereo. And I painted the kitchen until the stereo did not work, and then I stopped painting the kitchen.
Would you tell me how that came about? I'm real interested in that.
Sure.
He said he wanted a car stereo.
He wanted a car stereo. He already had a stereo.
No, she said she needed a kitchen painted first. That's how that conversation came up.
I did not ask him to paint my kitchen.
Just a second.
Definitely.
How did it come you went to get the car stereo?
Because he promised to paint my kitchen, and he added more months of training.
Oh, please, I can't be involved with this, madam. So far, I have $320.52 for a phone bill. That he acknowledges he owes. $242 to clean up this junk that he left. That you got so far.
I couldn't clean the place because the lights were turned off. It's dark in there.
Use a flashlight. What's next?
Finish the painting on the
Forget
kitchen.
the painting on the kitchen. What else? You know, you don't get paid, Miss Nelson, sometimes you don't get paid for being dumb. Right? You don't get paid for being dumb. If you're having trouble with him and he's not paying back the money on $3,000, he tells him he needs a stereo, tell him to hum. You got it? You know, so women have to learn that if they're going to be dumb, they're not always rewarded. You know, if you're going to make a victim of yourself, courts aren't going to always bail you out. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. I don't think I made a victim of myself.
You did.
Though, because I
oh,
have his
you
name
did.
on the receipt.
If I rented a room to some stranger and he came to me and said to me, I'm a bodybuilder. That's what you were doing for a living, right? That was your living, and I want a Mercedes-Benz.
I was in sales management and fitness management.
And I want a Mercedes-Benz, right?
No, she wanted to get in shape first, so that seems to be somehow missed. She wanted to get in shape. She came to me saying, Keith, the most important thing I've always wanted to get in condition, that's why I've chosen you. Well, I said, I can't, well,
I can't help you unless I have a Mercedes.
Well, this
do me a favor.
What else? Have to be rewarded for
what
my work.
else? What else? Is that it that you want to tell me about? Be very careful what you tell me about, because you look like a nice lady, not too swift, at least when it came to deal with this individual.
I'll never make the mistake again.
Fine.
Be careful with first impressions now. You said
oh, no. My first impressions are usually based upon a very long time of experience dealing with more people than you will ever come across in your lifetime.
I believe
all different kinds, Mr. Middlebrook. And if you think that you're the first of your kind that I've come across, I guarantee you, you are a dime a dozen.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What's next?
I paid my friend Annette when I had to move in with her rent for the 3 weeks that I lived with her.
That comes under the category of, if you're dumb, you got to pay that.
She told
and
the
if
judge
you actually pay,
she was on vacation.
am I speaking to you? Do you see myself looking in your direction? I am not looking in your direction. If you had to pay your friend, then she's not such a good friend. What's next?
Oh, I didn't have to pay her.
Good.
I offered it to her.
Very good. Very. Forget it.
Okay.
Forget it. This is not a bonanza. This is not a bonanza. I hope you see $3,000 from him. I hope you see your $3,000 from him. That's a good lesson.
I don't think I will.
And from me, you're going to see $562.52. That accounts for his phone bill and to clean up this garbage that he left. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Case number 174 on the calendar in the matter of Lopez versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please. Case number 184 on the calendar in the matter of Roy versus Zamias. Party, you're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Roy, according to your complaint, you rented a room in defendant's home.
Yes,
When did you rent the room?
from January until May.
And what was your monthly rent?
$500.
According to your complaint, there came a time sometime in, was it May, that you had an argument?
Early June.
So you stayed there till June.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was to
You
stay.
stayed there till June.
Mm-hmm.
You had an argument over Tupperware.
Yes.
As a result of that argument, you say you were assaulted, given an eviction notice, forced to move. You want the defendant to pay you for the assault, pro rata for the rent, because you had already paid June's rent, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Your moving expenses, told you wanted to pay $1,543. So let's take it from. When in June did you have this argument?
June 6th.
Tell me about the argument.
Well, the morning of June 6th, I woke up, and I had been looking for my Tupperware throughout that week. And
What Tupperware?
This Tupperware right here.
Those two pieces?
Yes. So throughout the week and in the morning before work and everything, that's when I had time to ask her. So on June 6th, I knocked on her door, and she said, you know, come on in. And I said, hey, Nicole, you know, have you seen my Tupperware? And she said, no, you know, and went on into, you know, Karina, I need to stop condensing your food down into smaller containers in the refrigerator. And this was the third time that I had asked her for my Tupperware, and she was changing the subject when 2 other times I wasn't getting direct answers, and where she was directing me, they weren't there. Like the first time I asked her.
I'm not interested.
Okay.
Just get to the
So
point.
I said, look, if I don't get my Tupperware back, I'll just take it off my rent. And she said, well, don't you dare. And she threw her blankets off her, with which every morning.
Just a second. Are you telling me you went into her bedroom
Yes.
to ask? Let me finish my question. You went into her bedroom to ask for those 2 pieces of Tupperware?
Yes, for the
And she was in bed?
Yes.
Go ahead. So she threw her blankets off.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
But, you know, every other morning.
Just answer the question. Tell me, she threw her blankets off and said what?
Don't you dare, you know, and she threw her blankets off, and she ran to the door and slammed it open. She said, I ate it! And she stormed into the kitchen. And I followed her, and she opened her Tupperware cupboard and forced all of her Tupperware on me like that.
Let me explain something to you. Don't get dramatic with me. Okay, go ahead. So she...
And threw all of her Tupperware on me.
She didn't throw all of her Tupperware on
Yes,
you.
she did. Yes,
How did she
did.
Miss Roy, you're standing there, so what you're telling me, she took out each piece of Tupperware from the cupboard and threw it at you?
No, she has a Tupperware cupboard, and she put her arm on one end of that Tupperware cupboard, and with all of her force, threw it on me, and I was standing behind her, and it landed on me.
Is that the assault you're talking about?
No, and there was one other.
No. Is that the assault that you're talking about?
That's one of them, yes.
And when was the other one?
Then she kept standing there and screaming, you know, how dare you, and don't you dare, don't you even dare, Karina, shame on you, shame on you.
Listen to me.
Like this.
I hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, this is what she was yelling at me.
Go ahead.
And I said, you know, Nicole, you said you were going to take care of my Tupperware, and and on Sunday your maid came, and I haven't seen him since. And she said, there's your answer, Karina. Look in that cupboard there. Look in that one. And I go over there, and I open it up, and it's kind of on the ground, so I kneel down, and there's my Tupperware, and I grab it. And when I'm down, she's leaning her whole body into me, pointing her finger in my face. How dare you? Don't you even dare. Shame on you. That's it. I want you out of here. And she hit my head with her finger. She had all of her weight on me.
Next. So what happened next?
So then I got up, and I'm just like backing away. I'm like backing away. I'm walking out of the kitchen, you know, and she threw her hand up. Damn you, you know, how can you do this? And that's it, Karina, I want you out of here in 30 days. And I'm standing there, and we're standing in front of Anna now, okay? And I said, good. And Anna stood up and said, hey, and looking directly at me, and said, hey, the babies, as she's looking at me. And I had not said anything through this whole entire time.
What did she say?
The babies. The babies.
Hey! Quiet. What happened next?
Well,
You went to work.
As Anna was
You
saying,
went to work?
Yeah, I went to work.
And what happened when you came home from work?
There was a letter in my room.
And what did the letter say?
It said, because of your histrionics and verbal assault this morning, Anna and I agreed that for the sake of the daycare children, you are to leave the premises as soon as possible. I am hereby giving you a 14-day notice.
Okay. You don't deny writing that note? No. No, good. Okay. Where did you come to a 14-day notice?
In my contract, Your Honor, I have it's a month-to-month lease.
Yes, so there's usually a 30-day notice.
Right. And because of the daycare, should there be any behavioral or safety issue, I exercise the right to use the 14-day. And also the tenant.
Is there a notice in your agreement giving you the right for a 14-day notice?
Yes.
Let me see it.
Yes, it's right here. And,
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
Good.
There's also a 48-hour, but that's for something more serious like underage drinking.
Let me just see.
In my home.
Okay. With at least 14 days' notice given and acknowledged in writing by both parties. Okay, so you gave her a 14-day notice.
My assistant and I decided. Okay.
So that's on the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
When did you move out?
Moved out on the 9th.
30 days hath September, April, June, and November. So what we're talking about is 21 days. Is that right?
No, so I had paid June's rent on May 21st to stay till June 21st.
Oh, okay. So that means that you're only entitled to 12 days.
Yes.
You have a problem with giving her her prorated rent?
I do, Your Honor, because I gave her the 14-day notice.
She moved out before.
And she had announced to me that she would be moving out the following Saturday, which was in a couple of days. And my exact words were, Karina, you're free to move whenever you want, but the room is yours until the 21st.
That's just because you say so.
And
listen to me. Just because you say so doesn't mean that that's so. You gave her a 14-day notice.
Right.
Because you say there was some egregious reason why you gave her short notice. If
Yeah.
she decides not to stay there until that time, that's her prerogative. You have to give her her prorated rent back.
But, Your Honor, the problem is, although she physically moved out, her property was still in the room.
All of her?
Absolutely. No, not all of her property.
What?
The day after she moved, she said she needed to bring her answer machine in because her phone...
What was in her
Well,
room?
there was a lamp, a pole lamp, and then her ashtray, and she said Saturday night when she moved out, I'm really tired, my ashtray is in there, I didn't even wash it, I'll get back to it later. And I did not even go into the room to clean or anything. When I did go after the 20th, when she got her security deposit back, then I went in there, and these two items were in the closet still.
Is that the other items?
The lamp, she had said when she was moving, she said, you can either give this away or throw it away.
And you should have done that.
Karina Roy says former landlord Nicole Zimius assaulted her with Tupperware.
Okay. What items do you think suggest that she still occupied the room? The teddy bear and the cup?
Well,
listen to me. Speak.
The lamp.
The lamp she told you to get rid of.
The ashtray and these two things. With the kind of ups and downs that we've had in her stay, I was not about to even go into the room, and I didn't.
That's fine. That's your prerogative. You did, you didn't. I don't care whether you did or whether you didn't. Clearly, you gave her a notice because you didn't want her around. You felt as if you wanted to give her 2 weeks to get out. That's fine. I find that she elected to move out before. I believe she's entitled to do that. She doesn't want to be there if you don't want her there. She moved out. She gets her portion of the rent back that she paid, because I don't consider that, a cup and her teddy bear, leaving property in the house so that you couldn't rent the room again if you wanted to. All right. Now, next. You want her to pay your moving expenses. Is that right?
Yes.
Wrong. Okay. So we've just dealt with that. You don't get your moving expenses. Now, damages due to the assault. I'm prepared to hear you if you want to tell me what your damages were as a result of the assault.
Because of this, I mean, the way I physically felt, okay, was just like somebody just ripped I just felt hollow in here. I mean, I did not feel stable at all. My driving
You're not
has
stable. Anybody that walks into a bedroom, somebody sleeping in their bed, to ask for 2 pieces of Tupperware and start an argument with them while they're in bed over 2 pieces of Tupperware isn't too stable.
Okay.
To start with.
Well, because
$500 divided by 30 equals $16.66. Clear that?
Yeah, just multiply.
What?
Just multiply.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Wait a second. I'm learning how to use this machine.
Okay, I'm trying to tell you.
Just a minute. Times 12 equals $199.92. That you are entitled to. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $199.92. Thank you. You want to give her back a bear?
Certainly.
Perfect. Bird, would you take care of the bear in the cup?
Sure. Parties are excused. You may step out.
She fought with all the tenants. She fought with me. She fought with my 2 sons who don't even live there anymore.
Absolutely not. I'm such a meek, shy person. I bowed down to them and I stayed out of their way.
And now the next case.
All parties on Habib versus Fields. Step forward, please.
27-year-old tutor Nafisa Habib is suing her ex-boyfriend's friend, 28-year-old bakery worker Anise Fields, for smashing her windshield with a baseball bat.
Ms. Habib, both you and the defendant have a child.
Yes.
And that child was fathered by the same person.
Yes.
So that's how you know each other.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would assume that you don't like each other.
I have no problem with her.
Well, then you think she doesn't like you.
I guess, yes.
Because it's your claim that she smashed the windshield of your car.
Yes, ma'am.
When did this take place?
On January 12, 2001.
Where?
His uncle's house where he was staying there at the time.
This is the father?
Yes.
Of both children?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any other children?
Yes, I do.
How many?
4.
4 other ones?
4 children altogether.
Altogether. How old is your child?
My child is 3.
And yours?
He's 3. My child's 1 month older than her son.
Tell me how it happened that you happened to be in the same location.
January 12th, he called me and asked me to bring over my daughter. He doesn't see her a lot, so I brought her over.
To where he was staying?
Yes. While we were there, I was downstairs in like the lounge area in the basement, and he was upstairs. And I heard some banging on the door. I thought he had locked himself outside the house. So I called upstairs, Rude Boy, did you lock yourself outside?
What's his name?
Rude Boy. By that time, he came downstairs. He said, Anise is outside.
Anise,
yes.
That's you.
Me, yeah. I said, are you gonna let her in? He said, no, she's upset, she's gonna wanna fight. I said, fight who? That's when she busted the basement window. She had a bat in her hand, and I saw her. Rude Boy ran upstairs, I stayed downstairs. They were outside, I heard her yelling, what do you think, I'm stupid? Is she in there? Is she in there? I heard him yelling. He said, I'm gonna call the police. He came in the house, apparently she left. He came downstairs, he didn't call the police. We started cleaning up the glass. At that time, I said, Rude Boy, let me drop you off at work. When I went to my car, opened my door, I saw the glass on my seat and saw she bust my windshield. I switched cars with my father and I went to her house. She invited me in, we talked for a while. The end result of the conversation was that Anise said she was gonna pay for my windshield when she got her school money because she didn't have any money at the time. The very next day, after Anise busted my windshield, she called me and she apologized continuously. Nafisa, I'm sorry, this is not me. I don't go around busting girls' windshields. I felt sorry for Anise because I know how it is for a brother to allow you to believe that it's all about you and it's not all about you. So I felt sorry for her. I said, no problem, Anise, when you get the money.
So, bottom line is, you saw her with a bat break the basement window.
Yes.
But not your car window.
No.
But she did, in fact, tell you that she would pay for it. Okay, let me hear you.
She's lying. Basically.
Why don't you just tell me what happened? You went over
I wasn't there. No, I was not there. No.
Just a second. Are you telling me that you never went to the house?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
I think you have to come up with a better story than that. I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe her when she says that you came to the house.
Mm-hmm.
I believe her when she says that she saw you with a bat in your hand and that there was glass downstairs at the basement window. So I think we're going to start over again.
She's lying. He lives there. So he was there. So he can tell you. I was not there.
All right.
She's lying. I don't know. My basement window never got broke. I don't know how you can see somebody break the basement window from the basement. I don't know what she's talking about. Prior to this, she said I broke her window, busted her car up. She told my grandmother I did it. She let a friend of mine use her car. He crashed her car up. She said I did it. I don't know nothing about what this is about.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, Miss Judy, Judge Judy. I'm trying to be calm because I want to cry because I cannot believe that Jamar would sit up here and lie. He was supposed to watch Hanifa, but he said that he couldn't watch her. I didn't even know he was going to be here. Rude boy, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Shh. Don't talk to him.
I'm
Can I
sorry.
see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Judge Judy, he also told me, Rude Boy himself told me that Anissa had intentions several times to pay you for your car windshield, but things that came up. When I went to her house, I met her mother, I met her daughter, Asia.
You brought your daughter to
I
my
met
house.
her son.
No. Okay, just a minute. Wait.
Oh, God.
I can't believe you, Rude Boy.
I can't believe you.
Oh, it's over.
Never was anything.
Whatever, Rude Boy. Whatever.
If you talk amongst yourselves, you're leaving.
Excuse me.
Tell me why you reported this to the police 2 days later.
Well, I believed Anissa. When she said she was going to pay me for the windshield, and when she called me the very next day after it happened, I believed her. I believed her. My father said, Nafisa, cover your tracks. If you get a police report, then at least you have that in case you have to take her to court. I did not believe it was going to have to go this far. It's only $183. I'm not asking her for cab money or the inconvenience she put me. My sister had to come and get me several times to pick up my children. I work 2 jobs. I raised 4 children by myself. I don't have time for this. This is so juvenile.
Mr. Jones, do you currently have a relationship with any of the 3 or 4 women?
This one here.
This
No,
one.
he doesn't.
Shh,
I'm sorry.
No.
I apologize.
No.
I'm sorry.
So you currently have a relationship with a niece.
Yes.
How long have you had that relationship with a niece?
Since last year, we started dating each other and being in a relationship last summer.
How many children do you 2 have together?
1.
Your other 2 children, do they have the same mother?
No.
What do you do for a living?
My teacher aide, bus aide.
Nothing.
Shh.
I'm sorry. I apologize. He's lying. I'm sorry.
Well, how was she taking me to work if she came over?
Just listen to me.
She's making up stuff.
Listen to me.
I'm sorry. I understand. I apologize.
Teacher's aide, bus aides don't
Yes.
make a lot of money.
Small money.
Small money doesn't make 4 children.
No, I make 4 children, but my money take care of my children.
Impossible. Impossible. Okay. Do you work, Anise?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at a bakery.
How many children do you have?
5.
Do all 5 children live with you?
Yes.
You make a lot of money in the bakery?
No, I don't. I also go to school.
How is your family subsidized?
From me working and going to school.
How much money do you make at the bakery?
I make $5.50 an hour.
$5.50 an hour gross does not support 6 people, and he certainly doesn't make enough to support you and your children. What kind of work do you do?
I tutor children full-time, and I work at a floral shop part-time.
How many children do you have?
4.
What other support do you get for your children?
I receive food stamps, and that helps a great deal.
How old are your other children, Mr. Jones?
10, 2.
So you have a new child, not with either one of these 2 women.
Yes.
And shortly after that child was born, you renewed your relationship with a niece. Is that right?
Yes.
Excuse me, miss.
Shh. $183 is what the windshield cost you?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay it. $183. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This case.
And that's in Seattle, Washington.
Parties are excused. You may.
Europe in the mid-14th century, peasants were the backbone of medieval society, yet their existence was harsh and precarious. The vast majority of people in Europe were peasants, living in small rural villages or on manors controlled by nobles and lords. The feudal system bound peasants to the land. Many were serfs, legally tied to their lord's estate, obligated to provide labor, produce, and taxes. Freedom was rare and the social hierarchy rigid. Daily life revolved around endless toil. From sunrise to sunset, peasants labored in the fields, growing staple crops like wheat, rye, barley, and oats, as well as vegetables and occasionally livestock. The tools were primitive, wooden plows, sickles, and hand hoes, and the methods inefficient. Crop failures due to poor weather, pests, or disease were common, and food shortages frequent. Housing was basic and often squalid. Peasant cottages were small, one-room structures made of wattle and daub or timber, with thatched roofs. Floors were dirt, and heating was provided by a single hearth. Sanitation was non-existent. Human waste was disposed of nearby or in open pits. Such conditions bred disease and misery. Nutrition was minimal and monotonous. Bread made from coarse rye or barley was a staple, supplemented by beans, cabbage, onions, and the occasional bit of cheese or salted meat. Malnutrition was widespread, weakening immune systems. Clean water was scarce, and contaminated wells often caused outbreaks of dysentery and other intestinal diseases. Healthcare was primitive and based largely on superstition and herbal remedies. No formal medical knowledge or infrastructure existed for the common folk. Illnesses and injuries frequently became fatal due to lack of treatment. Life expectancy was low, infant mortality high, and the constant threat of famine, war, and disease hung over peasants like a shadow. The arrival of the Black Death. In 1347, the Black Death first arrived in Europe through the Mediterranean ports, spreading rapidly along trade routes. It was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, transmitted primarily by fleas carried on black rats, but also spread through respiratory droplets in pneumonic form. The plague arrived suddenly and mercilessly. Peasant villages connected by roads and markets were vulnerable. Once the disease reached a village, the spread was swift and devastating. The symptoms began with fever, chills, headaches, fatigue, and muscle aches, symptoms that might have seemed like any common illness at first. However, rapidly, buboes, painful, swollen lymph nodes appearing in the groin, armpits, or neck, developed. These blackish swellings gave the disease its name, the Black Death. Victims also suffered bleeding from orifices, vomiting blood, and delirium. Death often followed within days, sometimes hours. No treatment existed. Quarantine was unheard of or ineffective. Medical knowledge was inadequate, and many doctors fled infected areas or perished themselves. Peasants, isolated and lacking resources, were particularly defenseless. Daily life shattered. As the plague took hold, peasants' daily lives collapsed. Whole families and entire villages were wiped out. Those who were not yet sick lived in constant terror. The loss of workers meant fields went untilled. Food supplies dwindled, and starvation loomed. Labor shortages disrupted the agricultural cycle and local economies. Peasants still owed rents, labor duties, and taxes to their lords. However, with so many dead, it became nearly impossible to meet these demands. Lords attempted to enforce their rights through harsh means, raising tensions. Some peasants resisted, leading to unrest and rebellion. Social order unraveled. Mass graves replaced proper burials. Priests and clergy were overwhelmed or died themselves, leaving spiritual needs unmet. Fear bred superstition. Some peasants blamed minority groups, accused neighbors of witchcraft, or believed the plague was divine punishment. Hunger, cold, and exhaustion compounded suffering. The peasants' already meager diets became even more meager as food became scarce. Many faced starvation alongside the plague. The Black Death's grip tightens. As the plague ravaged Europe, peasants faced not only physical suffering but the collapse of their social and economic world. The sheer scale of death was staggering. In some regions, as much as half or more of the population perished within just a few years. Entire villages disappeared, their fields lying fallow and overgrown. Because peasants were the primary agricultural laborers, the shortage of workers threatened food production and survival. Fields went unplowed, crops unharvested. Starvation and malnutrition became common companions to the disease. Food scarcity also led to rising prices, which peasants could not afford. At the same time, feudal obligations did not pause for the plague. Lords demanded their rents and labor services even as peasants struggled to stay alive. Those who survived were often forced into harder labor for less compensation, fueling resentment and desperation. Brutality and exploitation. Some landowners saw the labor shortage as an opportunity to exploit peasants further. Instead of lowering rents or easing demands, many increased them or forced peasants to work longer hours. This economic pressure pushed peasants to the brink of starvation. Attempts to escape these harsh conditions were dangerous. Serfs who fled their lord's land risked being hunted down, imprisoned, or worse. Laws were enacted to prevent peasants from moving freely, cementing their status despite the demographic catastrophe. Peasants who did not die of plague often died from exhaustion, hunger, or violence. The breakdown of social order led to increased banditry, lawlessness, and localized conflicts. The once familiar rhythms of village life were replaced by chaos. Psychological terror and social breakdown. The plague instilled an omnipresent fear. Death was random, swift, and merciless. Peasants watched family members, neighbors, and friends waste away and die. The sound of coughing, groaning, and weeping filled the air. Mass graves replaced proper funerals. The dead were often buried without clergy or ceremony, deepening the spiritual anguish. Religious faith, a pillar of medieval life, was shaken. Priests and monks often succumbed to the disease themselves, leaving villagers without guidance. Some saw the plague as divine punishment and responded with extreme acts like self-flagellation, hoping to atone for sins. Others turned to superstition or scapegoated marginalized groups, resulting in violence and persecution. Isolation became common. Families abandoned sick relatives out of fear. Community bonds frayed as survival instinct overtook compassion. Economic and social consequences. In the wake of the Black Death, the economic balance shifted. Labor became scarce, and surviving peasants found they had increased bargaining power. Wages rose in some areas as lords competed for workers, though attempts to control wages with laws often failed. These changes sowed the seeds for the gradual decline of feudalism and the rise of a more market-oriented economy. However, in the immediate aftermath, peasants suffered immensely from the trauma, loss, and instability. For those peasants who managed to avoid the plague in its earliest waves, survival came at a steep price. Infected villages were often sealed off from the outside world, either by local authorities or out of sheer desperation. Entire communities became ghost towns, isolated by fear and death. The peasants who remained alive were often trapped in silence, surrounded by the dead, terrified of human contact. Access to food quickly became one of the greatest challenges. With so many workers dying or fleeing, harvests failed. Livestock wandered unattended, starved, or were stolen. Grain mills fell into disrepair. Many peasants, lacking the means to store food long-term, were left to forage in forests, risk eating spoiled grain, or slaughter the few animals they had left, often far too early to sustain them through winter. Many starved to death not because there was no food in the land, but because the systems that produced and distributed it had collapsed. Bread, the central pillar of the medieval diet, became a rare luxury. Fresh vegetables and meat disappeared. Hunger was constant, and even those who escaped the plague itself were consumed by malnutrition, cold, and physical exhaustion. The social structure of peasant villages had relied heavily on cooperation. Fields were often farmed in strips shared among families, tools were borrowed and lent, and the community provided mutual aid during hard times. But under the specter of plague, those bonds were severed. Neighbors locked their doors against one another. Those suspected of being ill were shunned or forced out. Mothers abandoned their children. Husbands left their wives. Fear corroded every human relationship. Even the sick were sometimes dragged outside of villages and left to die alone in the woods or fields, as others feared contamination. Corpses were burned or buried hastily, if at all. In many places, the dead lay in homes or along roads for days or weeks. The smell of decay was everywhere. Medicine and superstition, a world without hope. Medieval peasants had virtually no access to medical care. Physicians were few and catered mainly to nobles and clergy. Even then, most treatments were based on outdated ideas, such as the balance of the four humors blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Remedies often included bloodletting, leeches, or bizarre herbal mixtures, none of which helped and many of which hastened death. Peasants relied largely on local healers, herbalists, or midwives, many of whom were powerless against the sheer speed and lethality of the plague. Some turned to superstition. Amulets, charms, and prayers written on parchment were worn around the neck. Others burned herbs or bathed in vinegar in the hope of driving out the bad air they believed caused the illness. Religious explanations dominated. Many believed the plague was divine punishment for sin. Peasants would march through the streets in public acts of penance, self-flagellation, or fasting. Some wandered from town to town barefoot and bleeding, trying to appease what they believed was God's wrath. Others prayed obsessively, wept openly, or gave away all they had in hopes of mercy. But the plague did not discriminate. It struck the pious and the wicked alike. This created a deep spiritual crisis. Many peasants began to question the church's authority. When priests fled their posts or refused to bury the dead, trust in religious institutions crumbled. The loss of spiritual support, combined with physical suffering and social collapse, created a bleak and terrifying world where hope was almost impossible to find. Mass death, mass graves, and the loss of humanity. The scale of death was beyond comprehension. In some areas, entire generations were lost. Villages with populations of several hundred were reduced to a handful of survivors. Entire families vanished without a trace. Children became orphans overnight. In a society where family and land were everything, the emotional trauma was unimaginable. Burial practices, once sacred and essential, became impossible. Graveyards overflowed. Coffins were too expensive, and even shrouds were rare. The dead were thrown into pits hastily dug by teams of gravediggers, who were sometimes drunk, infected, or indifferent. These mass graves, often shallow and unmarked, were filled with hundreds or thousands of bodies. For peasants, death had once been accompanied by ritual. A priest's blessing, a vigil, a procession. Now it was anonymous, brutal, and final. Even mourning became dangerous. To be near a corpse was to risk infection. Families grieved in silence, if they survived at all. Children were sometimes left to fend for themselves. Without parents or guardians, they roamed the countryside, begging or stealing food. Some were taken in by distant relatives, but many were simply left to die. Abandonment became common. Even animals suffered. Dogs and cats, often blamed as carriers, were killed en masse in some towns. Livestock died from neglect or starvation. Wolves and other wild animals returned to depopulated areas, drawn by the smell of decay and the collapse of human control over the land. Rising tensions and violent reactions. In the chaos, people turned to violence. Desperate to find meaning in their suffering, many sought scapegoats. Foreigners, Jews, beggars, lepers, and women were all accused of spreading the disease. Accusations of well poisoning were common, and thousands of innocent people were tortured or executed in spontaneous mob justice or through sanctioned purges. Peasants, already at the bottom of society, often bore the brunt of this rage. Yet they also rebelled. As labor shortages gave them rare leverage, some demanded better wages or lower rents. When their lords refused, resistance turned to revolt. In England, for example, the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, just a few decades after the worst years of the Black Death, was fueled in part by the resentment born from the plague's aftermath. While the disease had temporarily disrupted the feudal structure, attempts to restore it brutally led to unrest. However, most revolts were crushed. Retaliation was swift and violent. Peasants were executed, villages burned, and old hierarchies restored, at least for a time. The long-term legacy, a changed world built on ruins. Though the Black Death brought unimaginable suffering, it also marked a turning point. Feudalism, already strained before the plague, began to erode. With fewer workers, peasants could sometimes demand higher wages or better conditions. Landlords, desperate to avoid the ruin of their estates, were forced to compromise. In some regions, serfdom declined. Peasants were able to rent land or sell their labor more freely. Urban migration increased. New opportunities emerged, but only for those who survived. However, for the average peasant living through the worst years of 1347 to 1351, these changes offered no comfort. Most would not live to see these benefits. They lived and died in a time of unimaginable terror, poverty, and loss. The psychological impact of the Black Death cannot be overstated. Survivors were scarred for life. The trauma passed through generations, expressed in art, literature, and oral history for centuries to come. A once stable, though deeply unequal world had crumbled, and a new one rose on its bones. Legal oppression in the aftermath. Though the death toll had decimated Europe's population, survivors did not find peace or justice waiting for them. For peasants, particularly in England, France, and parts of the Holy Roman Empire, the years after the plague brought not relief but repression. Labor was now in critically short supply. Fields needed tilling, harvests needed reaping, but the workforce had been gutted. Nobles and landowners, terrified that peasants might use their newfound leverage to demand fair wages or move to other manors offering better conditions, quickly turned to the law to freeze society in place. In England, for example, the Ordinance of Laborers 1349, and later the Statute of Laborers 1351, made it illegal for workers to demand higher wages than they had earned before the plague. These laws also tried to fix prices and restrict labor mobility. Peasants who attempted to negotiate better pay or fled their assigned land could be imprisoned, branded, or worse. Across Europe, similar policies were enacted. The idea was to restore order, but in practice, these laws punished the poor for surviving. The contradiction was grotesque. After living through the worst pandemic in human history, those who remained were chained even tighter to a system that had failed to protect them. The elite sought to maintain their wealth and power by preserving a pre-plague status quo, despite the fact that society itself had been irreparably altered. Peasants had no vote, no representation, and no legal means to protest. The lords had land, wealth, armed guards, and royal backing. The peasants had only their bodies, and those had been pushed to the breaking point. Psychological and emotional collapse. While historians can document death tolls and economic impacts, one aspect of the peasant experience during the Black Death remains largely invisible: the psychological destruction. Modern understandings of trauma, PTSD, and mental health didn't exist in the 14th century, but the signs were everywhere. Survivors often described feelings of guilt, despair, detachment, and numbness. Chronic stress and fear warped communities. In village after village, those who endured were left isolated, grieving, and unsure of their place in the world. The comforting rhythms of communal life, church bells, feast days, marriages, and harvest festivals vanished for years. In their place was silence, mourning, and often madness. Peasants lived with a crushing sense of unpredictability. The Black Death did not follow understandable patterns. It could spare one household and decimate the next. Healthy children could be dead by nightfall. A single cough from a neighbor could spell doom. In the face of such relentless uncertainty, many gave up entirely. In some regions, survivors adopted a fatalistic, almost nihilistic worldview. If God had allowed this horror, what meaning did anything have? Art and religious expression became dark, obsessed with death, decay, and the apocalypse. Skeletons, graves, and demons filled the imagery of the age. The peasant worldview, already shaped by hardship, became soaked in a profound and permanent fear. This cultural shift can still be seen in the period's folklore, songs, and visual art. The rise of the danse macabre, dance of death, the obsession with Judgment Day, and the sudden popularity of grim moral allegories. For peasants who lived close to the land and closer still to death, this was not symbolism, it was daily reality. Disease was only one threat. It's tempting to think the plague was the sole cause of suffering, but for peasants, it was just the most dramatic part of a much larger nightmare. In many areas, the plague came in waves, not just once. Major outbreaks occurred again in 1361, 1369, 1374, 1400, and beyond. Each time it returned, the cycle of death, hunger, and fear repeated. Entire generations were marked by repeated trauma. Even in plague-free years, peasants faced famine due to labor shortages and disrupted agriculture, increased taxation to fund wars and rebuild cities, inflation making food and tools unaffordable, random violence from roaming bandits, unpaid soldiers, or desperate townsfolk, forced labor conscription for rebuilding efforts or war campaigns. Natural disasters only made things worse. Floods, droughts, and harsh winters still struck with no warning. Without the safety nets of modern economies, a single poor harvest could tip entire regions into chaos. Social distrust also lingered. Peasants, who once depended on neighbors for mutual survival, were now wary of each other. Infected households were often ostracized, survivors seen as cursed or marked. Superstition governed relationships, not solidarity. And for peasants, there was nowhere to run. Urban workers could sometimes leave cities. Nobles could flee to country estates. Priests and merchants could travel or be protected by institutions. The peasants, they were bound to the land, both legally and economically. And the land was often soaked in death. The long-term social impact of the Black Death was transformative, but the immediate experience for the peasant class was one of mass extinction. Some estimates suggest 20 to 25 million people died in Europe between 1347 and 1351, nearly half the population. In some rural areas, mortality rates reached 60 to 80%. This meant entire family lines disappeared in a matter of weeks. Farmsteads were abandoned. Tools rusted in sheds. Fields were swallowed by weeds. Orphans wandered alone, many dying without names or burials. Elders who depended on their children for care were left to starve. Women who survived found themselves alone in societies where protection and income were tied to male relatives. Widows could not remarry if no men were left. Many simply died of neglect or exposure. Even those who inherited land from deceased family members rarely benefited. Without labor to cultivate it or markets to sell produce, the land became a burden. And with increased taxation and oppressive labor laws, any advantage gained was quickly crushed by noble greed. The memory of the Black Death became interwoven with the soil. In some villages, people refused to live in certain houses, claiming they were plague-cursed. Entire regions were repopulated only slowly, with newcomers ignorant of the suffering buried beneath the surface. To be a peasant during the Black Death was not simply to suffer through a disease. It was to be crushed beneath the weight of a world collapsing from every direction. This was not a moment of temporary hardship. It was a sustained and apocalyptic trauma. For years, peasants lived amid mass death, starvation, terror, exploitation, and abandonment. The very institutions they had been taught to trust, the church, the nobility, even the land itself, failed them or turned against them. The social structure that had defined their lives for generations proved powerless against the plague. Yet it clung on to control them even after the horror had passed. There was no healing for most. No counseling, no justice, no recognition. Most peasants died as they lived, poor, unnamed, and invisible in the eyes of history. No chroniclers recorded their final words. No books carried their memories. They were buried in pits, forgotten. And yet it was the peasant class, their hands, their backs, their lives, that held Europe together during the worst catastrophe in recorded history. They dug the graves. They buried the dead. They returned to the fields when no one else would. They rebuilt what had fallen apart, often under threat, often alone. Their suffering made the recovery possible, even if they reaped none of the benefits. A landscape of loss. In the aftermath of the initial wave, Europe became a continent of absences. The hum of village life was replaced by silence. Church bells rang not for celebration, but for the endless toll of death. Animals roamed untended. Oxen wandered from collapsed barns. Pigs rooted through abandoned gardens. Even nature seemed to pause. Birds no longer sang over towns cloaked in plague. Survivors spoke of an eerie stillness, as if time itself had frozen. The physical decay mirrored a deeper spiritual and psychological rot. Faith, once a source of comfort, had been fractured. People watched as priests refused last rites or fled towns entirely. Monasteries that once housed learning and care became sites of death. Monks died in rows. Nuns buried sisters in silence. When the church did remain, it often demanded more. Indulgences were sold to the desperate. Flagellant cults paraded through towns, whipping themselves in public, preaching divine punishment. These displays offered spectacle but no solace. For the peasants, whose lives had been ruled by religious calendars and clerical authority, the collapse of the church's moral leadership left them disoriented. Their world was no longer governed by divine order but by chaos. And in chaos, the powerful adapted quickly. The poor did not. The economy of death. Feudalism depended on the constancy of labor. The manor system, lords providing land and protection in exchange for service, relied on population stability. The Black Death shattered this equilibrium. In many villages, so few people remained that there were not enough hands to plant or harvest. Grain rotted in silos. Entire seasons of agricultural production were lost. Markets became irrelevant when there was nothing to trade and no one to trade with. Craftsmen vanished. Apprentices died with their masters. Skills honed over decades disappeared overnight. But scarcity created value. For the first time in generations, peasants who survived found themselves in demand. Landowners needed tenants. They needed ploughmen, shepherds, milkmaids. In theory, this could have improved lives, but the ruling classes resisted change. Rather than adapt, they imposed controls. The Statute of Laborers in England, 1351, attempted to freeze wages at pre-plague levels, making it illegal for workers to seek better pay elsewhere. Lords demanded the return of runaway serfs. Local officials hunted those who dared to move in search of opportunity. Violence became a tool to enforce the old order. In France, similar measures were enacted. In parts of Germany, peasants were tied to their lords through renewed obligations. Despite the labor crisis, the ruling elite acted not with reform but repression. The idea that peasants had earned anything through their suffering was inconceivable to those in power. The seeds of resistance. Still, the plague had planted dangerous ideas, ideas of movement, of choice, of worth. Some peasants defied laws and traveled to new towns where labor was needed. Others negotiated better terms for tenancy. A few, emboldened by loss, refused to return to servitude at all. This quiet rebellion spread over years, culminating in open defiance. In 1381, England erupted. The peasants' revolt, sparked by oppressive taxation and class cruelty, surged across the countryside. Villages marched on London. Manor houses were looted. The king was confronted. Though the revolt was ultimately crushed, its echo lingered. In Italy, guilds of workers began asserting more power, especially in cities like Florence, which had lost vast portions of their population. In parts of Germany, religious movements formed around the idea of equality under God, not hierarchy. These were not revolutions as we think of them today, but they were ruptures. The idea that peasants were mere bodies to till land and die quietly had been shaken. The Black Death had revealed something fatal to the elite. Their system was not eternal, could break. It had broken. A generation raised in ruin. Children born in the 1350s and 1360s inherited a broken world. Many never knew extended families. Uncles, aunts, cousins gone. Some were raised by survivors too traumatized to speak of what had been lost. Others grew up wild, unchurched, unschooled, unclaimed. This generation would become the labor force of the late 14th century. They had no memory of the world before, only of its aftermath. Some benefited from the reduced population. Opportunities opened in towns. Wages, though suppressed by law, rose in practice. A young laborer might now own land or lease a shop. A shepherd could earn enough to live independently. Women, though still confined by patriarchal norms, found new space as widows, midwives, healers, and traders. But trauma lingered beneath the surface. Folklore absorbed the loss. Tales of restless spirits, dancing skeletons, and death as a constant companion emerged in art and song. The danse macabre, popular across Europe, showed rich and poor alike dancing hand in hand with death. It was not simply a memento mori. It was a portrait of shared helplessness. For peasants, this art spoke a truth they had always known. Death did not discriminate, but society did. Cultural amnesia and historical silence. The chroniclers of the time wrote of kings and plagues, battles and saints. Rarely did they name the peasant dead. Their accounts focused on the spectacular, the spread of the disease, the behavior of cities, the fall of great men. What they ignored were the daily tragedies. The mother who buried 5 children before succumbing herself. The teenager who dug graves until his hands bled. The old man who died alone, his body found weeks later in a ruined hut. No monuments were erected for these people. No ballads were sung. They passed from memory not because they were unimportant, but because they were too many, too poor, too ordinary to matter to those who recorded history. And yet, they were the majority. The Black Death was not a noble tragedy. It was a peasant apocalypse. From ashes, foundations. As the century wore on, Europe began to stabilize. Not return to normal, normal was gone. But to something new. Feudal obligations continued to erode. Cities gained more autonomy. Trade slowly resumed. The Renaissance, still decades away, began to germinate. None of this would have been possible without the labor of the peasant class. They cleared the fields, rebuilt homes, raised livestock, maintained roads. They repopulated villages, restarted economies, and ensured that future generations had a world to inherit. Their work was unrecognized, but essential. They were the quiet architects of recovery, a legacy in silence. Today, the memory of the Black Death still haunts Europe in literature and folklore, but the peasant experience remains largely invisible. Historians have only recently begun to piece together their stories, not through royal chronicles, but through wills, manorial records, skeletal remains, and scattered letters. We now know more than ever before, but still we do not know enough. What were their final thoughts? Their dreams? Did they feel hope? Bitterness? Did they believe the world could be better? Or simply that survival was enough? We cannot answer, but we can acknowledge the truth that history tried to forget. Europe was rebuilt by the broken, by those who had lost everything yet continued, by the unnamed dead in unmarked graves, by the women who raised children alone, by the men who turned back to ruined fields and sowed them anyway, by the elders who shared stories no one wrote down. This was their legacy: survival in the face of abandonment, hope in a world that offered none, labor in a system that rewarded them with silence. And perhaps that is the most profound lesson of the Black Death. Not the statistics or the politics, but the endurance of the ordinary. The world as we know it exists because the peasants refused to let it die. They held the line when no one else would. They deserve to be remembered,